What's going on, everybody? I just wanted to hop on here real quick to let you know that in this episode with Daniel Thomas, we experienced some technical difficulties. And at multiple points during the episode, the video froze and the audio cut out. So it was still an amazing episode. And we didn't want to do the entire thing over again because Daniel said so many amazing things that we wanted to share this episode. But I also wanted to come on here and let you know that you can expect some, rough cuts in certain spots, or, it seems like there's an abrupt end to a thought. That's just because we had some technical difficulties and we had to edit those things out. That being said, hopefully me letting you know this now helps you not get distracted by those things when it happens as you're listening to Daniel talk, because he says some incredible things. And it's a really, really good episode, one that I think would be beneficial for both young athletes and coaches who deal with young athletes. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Home Team Sacramento podcast, where we believe that although we may compete in different uniforms, at the end of the day, if you believe in character, if you believe in making an impact, a positive impact on the lives of young athletes, then you are a part of this home team in Sacramento. Kevin's not with us today, unfortunately, but that's okay because we have an awesome guest. We have the owner of Dynamic Training, Daniel Thomas. What's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little bit worried as I started saying the name of your company, because I don't know if you remember from the Combine podcast, Deb butchered it and called it Dynamite Training Facility. I'm like, ooh, that's a tough name. So as it started coming out of my mouth, I'm like, okay, no, I'm good. Dynamic Training.
Got a little nervous.
Ooh, I made too much fun of her. You know what I mean? So anyways, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. I'm just finishing up a crazy night of training. But I'm so excited to be here and to be on this podcast. Really excited when you guys made and created this podcast, and I want to be a part of it from day one. So I'm grateful that you're having me on here.
We appreciate that, man. You've always been a great supporter of anything that we've done, and we love having you on our side and on our home team because, everything you do, like let's just start off this way, man. You're in a unique position because of what you do. Like, you're not a coach of a specific school or of a specific team. You're still a coach. You're a speed and agility coach, a strength and conditioning coach, but you have your own facility, you have your own company. So you actually get a chance to coach a bunch of different athletes at different ages, different levels from all over the city. So let me ask you this. When you were growing up, and because I'm sure you played with guys when you were playing football at Del Oro that you could just tell they were going to be coaches one day. Like, I know when I was playing baseball at Casa, there was just certain guys, the way they carried themselves, you knew, oh, that dude's going to be a coach one day. And sure enough, there's like a handful of them that are. You seem like a dude that was probably like that when you were younger. Like, did you imagine that you would be in the position you're at today?
I don't think so, to be honest with you. For those of you that don't know my dad, he is like the most outgoing, loud, electric person. So I think growing up, I'm a little bit more like my mom. I was a little more calm, a little bit more reserved. And as an athlete, I was very cautious and methodical, meaning I would always let someone do the drill first and I would watch what they did, mistakes they made. And I was always a quick learner. But I never really saw myself like being on a stage and having people look at me, because that was something my dad did my whole life growing up. And I just never thought that was me because it just didn't seem like it was in my personality. And it's just crazy to see how life and how God can groom you through things, because as I began coaching, I was super uncomfortable being in front of people. And then all these different opportunities actually came to me. Like, I was an Orange Theory fitness coach for about 2.5 years. And they put a mic on me and I'm like, what the heck is this? Am I on NSYNC? Like, I was so uncomfortable having a little boy band mic on.
Yeah.
But it totally brought me out of my shell, and it allowed me to get comfortable hearing myself talk, having eyes on me, and kind of controlling a room. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that I've mastered at this point. but it's something that definitely was not natural for me. So shout out to those introverts that don't know if they can do it. It's possible. You just have to be willing to grow and to challenge yourself to do it.
That's crazy, man. I would have never guessed that because you do. I mean, at this point, when I met you, you do seem very comfortable in front of the camera. You seem very comfortable when you're doing your YouTube stuff or your YouTube channel or your Instagram, all those different things. But I can relate to that, man, because I was very much the same way in high school. Definitely, I'm still introverted, more reserved, but definitely back in high school, way, way more introverted and reserved. And I think it is funny some of the reactions I get when people hear that I'm doing a podcast. They're like, Josh Takimoto? Like, is that the right person we're thinking of? Like, really, podcast talking? It throws them off. So I get that for sure, man. But again, I think that's interesting because I think that's where the passion comes in, right? Like, it's obvious if anybody follows you on social media or has a conversation with you, it's obvious that you have a tremendous passion for young athletes. And not the thing that I like about you, man. And I told you this when we first met. It's not just that it's obvious you're passionate about fitness. You're obviously passionate about strength and conditioning and agility and speed, but you're just as passionate about seeing your young athletes be amazing people, be amazing human beings, and do great things on and off the field. So, like, tell me, where do you think that comes from, and why are you so passionate about that?
Man, so many different people that have like poured into my life over the years, and that like I said, I'm a very observant person. I'm really big on taking nuggets from people. Like someone will speak for an hour and I might not agree with 99% of what they say, but they say one thing. And I'm really open to being like, ooh, I'm taking that because I really enjoyed that instead of just blocking people off or closing people off.
Sure.
But the one quote that it's actually been I don't know what you call it, is the bio on Facebook. It's been like my
Yeah.
quote or my bio on Facebook since I made a Facebook page, and it says, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's been like my motto for life. I don't even say it very much, but it's just how I operate my business, how I operate my life is, I think with a lot of coaches in today's world, they're really quick to criticize or to correct athletes. And athletes are a little bit more sensitive in today's world. They don't take that so well. But at the same time, I think it's our job as coaches to let these kids know, like, before I'm going to correct you, before I'm going to critique you, I'm going to show you how much I care about you. I'm going to show you how much I love you and how much I want you to be successful. So now when I come at you with that criticism or that correction, you know where it's coming from. You know where my heart is and where the place that it's coming out of. And the athletes are so much more receptive. Sometimes as coaches, we just got to slow down and explain why we're doing this, why we're pushing them as hard as we're pushing them. And, at the end of the day, I think almost all coaches, if you are coaching, you want to see your athletes have success, and that's the goal. But sometimes I think we miss that, the caring part, the loving part first. You have to establish that relationship before you can move forward.
I 100% agree. And I like how you said that. I want to emphasize that you're saying you show the caring, loving side first, not instead of, right? Because I think some people get
100%.
this idea twisted, where you're saying, okay, we want to focus on character, integrity, all that stuff. Well, are you saying that we can't correct them or we can't be critical? It's like, no. Because if you're not critiquing, if you're not being critical, then you're not also not loving them like you should be, right? Because you're not
For
making them the
sure.
best they can be. So it's not an either or thing. It's both. You need to do both, but it's just the order in which you do it. So I love how you said that because I think that's crucial for any sport. And it's easy to get like, we're all competitive, right? Like, I know you're competitive. I'm competitive. Kevin's competitive. We're all competitive. So I think sometimes it's easy to forget that. But when you make that a priority, there's a huge impact on your athletes. And it's obvious, man, that, there's a lot of people that love you. Obviously, we reference the Combine podcast a little bit here and sometimes. And at the end of 2019, I forgot. At the end of one of those years, you won the podcast award for guest of the year. Yep, and he has a belt. It was pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie. I ordered
It
the
was
belt.
awesome.
It was awesome. But the thing that really stood out about that is that you had so many people vote for you, and not just vote for you, but you had so many people messaging me saying, "Hey, I want to vote for him." It's like, well, you already voted for him, so I'm not going to count this a second time, but I will let him know how much you guys love him. But you had
Man,
parents, you had athletes, you had other coaches saying like, "Hey, we love that dude." And I think that speaks a lot to like how you operate, how you do your thing, and like I said, the influence that you have. Um, do you feel the pressure of that? Because I know, like, obviously with social media these days, with obviously even when you were playing and even when I was playing, you knew certain athletes across the city, right? Like you may not compete against them, but you knew, hey, I know the quarterback over at Folsom High School, or I know who's the point guard over at Sheldon High School. You just know these names, even though you may not know them personally. And I think the more we get involved with social media, there tends to be this pressure on everything that we do, right? Like people see, and you're more out there as far as what you're doing. You as a trainer, with all of these people that look up to you, all these people that come to you for training, do you ever feel that pressure of that influence that you have? And if so, how do you deal with it?
Man, I think the pressure is more is, Instagram specifically, it's everybody seems perfect. You know what I mean? And I try to tell people that, Instagram isn't reality, it's a highlight reel, So not a lot of people are willing to show vulnerable moments or poor moments in their life or negative things because it's all about the highlights and the highlights. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's definitely a pressure that comes associated with trying to seem like you got it all going on or that you have your head on your shoulders. But I think that I try my best to be real with people. And so I started doing a little bit more like vlog styles on my YouTube channel because a lot of people, every time I ask somebody, I said, hey, what do you guys want to see more content of? Um, do you want to see more speed and agility? Do you want to see more nutrition? Do you want to see more of what I do in everyday life? And every time people want to see what I do in everyday life. And I'm like, I'm not that interesting, guys. Like, I don't know why. But,
Yeah.
I think that people want to see who you really are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People want to see what do you do on a daily basis that makes you who you are? Because a lot of people only see Coach DT, right? They don't necessarily get to see me in my own workouts or my own walk through my everyday life. And so I try to do some things. I got these truth box packs, and it kind of has a word or a phrase on it,
Okay.
like joy or happiness, and then it breaks down. It has different Bible scriptures, but long story short, it's just like being able to me reading these cards. I've been doing a little bit more on my social media platforms is just kind of showing where my heart is with these things.
Sure.
So a word that says joy, and I just kind of talk about where that comes from for me, and I try to really relate to these kids because a lot of the times, people, we seem like we're on pedestals. If you have a K behind your followers, you seem like you're like super fancy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it does add credibility in today's world, which is crazy, but it's the reality. If you have a lot of followers or subscribers, you're seen as a celebrity or a higher profile person.
Sure.
And so, just as I've continued to grow, gratefully, I just try to keep it real as much as I can and trying to show a little bit more of my everyday life so that people can see like it's not all sunshines and rainbows, but at the end of the day, we still make it happen.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that too, because I was having a conversation with, I don't know if you know Tyler Andrade. He's the owner of
Yeah.
Absolute Flexibility. He was actually saying that same thing. He's like, man, you live in this fitness world or this entrepreneurial world and you see the same kind of garbage all the time. It's like, it's not that it's bad stuff, but it just feels like no one's being real with what they're saying or how difficult life can be for them. They want to make it seem like, hey, I achieved this level of success and it's life's great, but really, and you know this better than a lot of people, owning a business is not always the most glamorous thing. Like it sounds cool, right? But it's a lot of work. It's really tough. Um, so I think, yeah, it makes a lot of sense that people want to see the real side of your life and not just, like you said, the manicured, um, pictures and the most thing. That being said, dude, I saw you went on vacation to Tulum, and you went to that beach, which, it must be nice being as strong as you and the kind of shape you're in. Cause I was talking to my wife. I'm like, I could never go there. Not at this point in my life. I would feel very uncomfortable, but was that cool?
No.
But we don't want to go
Oh
sidetrack too
my
much, but
gosh.
was that a cool experience?
The best part of the trip, I'd say,
Yeah,
for me personally, but that's also because I was so hyped to see it. I've been following them on
sure.
Instagram for a long time.
Yeah.
And when my wife was like, hey, there's these tickets to Cancun. Do you want to go? I'm like, how far is that from the jungle gym? I'm only booking this if we can make a trip. And it was actually an hour and a half drive. So it
Wow.
really wasn't close to where we were staying.
Yeah.
Um, but we made the trip, and my wife is awesome.
Yeah.
I try to tell people all the time, behind any successful man, entrepreneur, or just person, you got a rock star of a woman behind them,
Yeah.
as I'm sure, supporting your dreams
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
encouraging you. So shout out to my wife for making it happen because that was something I wanted to do. And it was so cool, man. So cool.
Oh no, I was talking on my other podcast that we brought that up, and I followed them too, and it's just like just a cool concept. And then I saw maybe like about a month later you're going there. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. It makes perfect sense that you would be there too. It's like that's like your world, dude. So it makes a lot of sense. But I want to touch on what you said about your wife though, because I think that's a really interesting part of coaching and part of being in this athletic world, because no matter what you do, whether you're a high school coach of a team, whether you are a trainer like yourself, um, athletic trainer, whatever role you play in this athletic world, like it's all time consuming. It's something that takes up a lot of time, especially if you're passionate about it and you want to be really good at it. You're going to put a lot of time and effort into it. And we've seen before with people, our age, people that are older than us, that it can take a massive toll on relationships, marriage, a lot of different things. So obviously you got married not too long ago. So you're still fairly new to the game, as am I, about 5 years into it. But what have you learned as far as how to balance, home life, everyday life with your passion for coaching? And how do you prevent it from overtaking every other area of your life?
So something I struggle with on an everyday basis for sure. I saw a meme that said, I quit my 9 to 5 to work 24/7. And that's kind of what it's like to give up a regular job to go as a
Yeah.
self-employed person.
Yeah.
Um, when you're passionate about something, it never feels like work.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you don't get tired.
Sure.
That doesn't mean you don't get ran down. That doesn't mean that there's not other things in life. And the biggest thing I can say is you got to find a person that is going to rock with you, meaning my wife. You got to find someone that supports you and not only supports you and not only lifts you up and makes you better, but is honestly willing to make sacrifices, because it's not easy being self-employed. It's not easy being married to someone that's self-employed,
Mhm.
because she'll be the first one to tell you, I didn't know when I, married you that I signed up to be head admin, head front desk, head HR, head, she's
Yeah.
took on so many roles, and she's got her own career, she's teaching, and then she comes from the school and she goes straight to the facility and helps
Mm.
me out. And so without her being willing to sacrifice, there's no way my business would have been able to grow and to continue to do um, as well as it's done. It's definitely exploded ever since she's been a part of my life.
Mm.
And I can say that I've been grinding the same for probably the last 3 years strong. But since she's been able to help me grow and develop. And, it also, you got to be able to give and take, because there's moments where I'm on my phone responding to emails at midnight, like boom, boom, boom. And then she'll be the first one to come over and be like, hey, let's have some us time. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yep, exactly. Hit,
Yeah.
hit the timeout. And I have to be willing to say, oh, you're right. Like, I've been at this all day. We need to have our time.
Sure.
Um, so, but I need to get better at that, because dude, I love the grind. If I wasn't married or I didn't have a significant other, dude, I would grind 24/7, 365 days a year,
Yeah.
But I told her, I said, you know what? I know you make these sacrifices, and that's why I try my best for us to go on these trips every
Sure.
so often. Where we went to Cancun and Tulum for a week where there was no work at all, and we just had so much fun together. And as we move along in our marriage, my goal is, to have locked in vacations. Hey, we need a week off every few months or every however long it ends up being. My goal is, she's willing to sacrifice for me. I need to be willing to put that effort into the relationship as well. So it's just about teamwork, man, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said too about finding someone that, not that this is a relationship podcast, but finding someone that's gonna, I don't know exactly how you worded it, but basically run alongside of you and run and at the very least understand, like why it is that you run so hard after the thing that you love. And if they're willing to go on that journey with you, that's incredible. I think of, well, I mean, man, you, in my opinion, and you saw it firsthand with, I love Coach Casey Taylor, who coached you at Del Oro. I don't know his wife. I've never met his wife, but we follow each other on social media. I can tell from just social media that she loves what he does. She loves the football team. She loves you guys as athletes. And I think that's why it's worked so well for them, is because she has a passion for what he does too. And so she's kind of taken that team on as her own. Same with like Coach Horner over at Casa, him and his wife. It's like she feels like she's a part of the team, just, same as your situation. Like your wife is a part of what you're doing. So, obviously it's not going to work out like that for every coach in every situation, but it's a good thought at least. If you're
Yeah.
getting into that field, like it's definitely an important thing to keep everything balanced and everything on the right path. It's good to have those different things.
Yeah. And my last thing about relationships, because I know this is turning into a relationship
Yeah, it's all
podcast, but
good.
for all the, the couples out there, the biggest thing that I try to harp on is to not ignore her passions. Because when you're self-employed, and you have an awesome woman that supports you, it's really easy to just say, come join me
Hmm.
and come be a part of what I'm building and what I'm growing. And I've been trying really hard on focusing on, hey, but what do you love? What do you want to do? Where do you find fulfillment and enjoyment? Because I think if you don't do that over time, no matter how awesome your woman is, there's going to be some sort of resentment. There's going to be some sort of, well, I never got to live out my dream. And that might not be for 50 years, but at some point that's going to hit. And so I'm trying so hard and continuing to try to push her towards her dreams and her goals and support her as much as she supports me. So
That's awesome. That's great advice.
yeah.
Let me switch the direction a little bit. So kind of
Yeah.
going back to your athletes and when you train them and mentor them, is there anything that when you look back at your high school and college career, because I didn't do a great job of mentioning this. I just kind of assumed that you seem to know everybody. So I'm assuming that whoever's listening to this probably has some familiarity with you. But you went to high school at Del Oro High School, played football there, and then remind me where you went to college.
So after Del Oro, I played 2 years at American River College.
Okay, that's right.
And then I transferred to Western Oregon University and finished
Western
up at
Oregon.
Western Oregon.
Perfect. So you've played a lot of football in your life, and now as you go into this training thing and you're dealing with young athletes all the time, is there something that you look back on in your own playing career that maybe you wish you would have done, or maybe it's something that you were glad that you did, that you try to instill in your athletes now?
Definitely. And the biggest thing that I can say is the dream and the false reality of D1 or die. And
Interesting.
I'm
Okay.
not just saying that because I played at a Division II school. Because when I was done at AR, I had opportunities to play at Division I schools, but a lot of the opportunities that I was given were, hey, preferred walk-on opportunities, right? Where it's like, hey, we see your skill, you can come on, you can work hard and try to earn that scholarship or earn that starting spot. And I had a really hard decision to make because I think, as most athletes feel, you want to go D1, you want to play for that big school, you want to be a part of that huge program that you saw on ESPN growing up, And I had to come to the crossroad of, do I want to spend my last 2 to 3 years working to try to get on the field, or do I want to spend my last 2 to 3 years as a dominant all conference player that's going to contribute and help take his team to the next level, kind of be the guy essentially.
Sure.
And throughout my whole career, I did have a lot of success, and I started and played everywhere I was at. But I had such a grind going up. I'm not the tallest guy in the world. For those people that don't know me, I played receiver, slot receiver, and I'm undersized. I'm about 5'8", 5'9". And so throughout my whole career, I was having to battle guys. And, I ended up starting on every team I played for, and I ended up contributing on every team, but it was just always a grind. I was always fighting for playing time, fighting to beat out somebody else that maybe was bigger than me or more high profile than me coming into it. And so when I finished and I knew, okay, I got 2 to 3 years left to play, what do I want to do? How do I want to finish my college career? And it was a hard decision to make, but I chose to go to the smaller Division II school and come in and be a guy right away, be a contributor right away, to be able to get all conference and to be able to score touchdowns and just make plays.
Sure.
And not everybody wants that route. Some people just really love a school and they're like, oh, I want to go to U of O. I want to be a Duck, and that's awesome. You just have to make that decision. If for some reason you don't start or you don't hit, get on the field, are you okay with with, being just a part of the team. And for some people they are, and some people they aren't. And so for me, I just try to tell people, like, what do you want? You need to be self-aware. Do you want to be a part of a team, or do you want to go and be a dog? Because depending on your size, your stature, your height, whatever the situation is, you may have a different role. You know what I mean? You may fit a different program style. My dream college growing up was USC. But guess what? USC's receivers are 6'2", 6'3", a little bit bigger, a little bit lankier.
Sure.
They don't typically have the kind of receiver that I am, which would be more of like a Julian Edelman or a
Sure.
Wes Welker, right? That small slot receiver that's shifty, that's going to make those hard catches over the middle. That didn't fit you. USC doesn't use that kind of a player. So at some point you have to evaluate and say, who am I as a player? Where am I going to fit in the best? And where am I going to have the most success?
Okay, let me ask you this. So obviously the name of this thing is Home Team, and we're focused on not just Sacramento, but obviously the surrounding areas. Do you have athletes that are from this area come back and talk to your guys and your girls? Do you have them come back and say, hey, I went to this school, or I went to that school, and then have them kind of be an example of like what hard work, dedication, character, all that stuff looks like? Do you bring people back to kind of invest back into the home team?
So I would love to. I'm at a place in my business where I'm just now starting to see my athletes get those big scholarships. So like we just had a girl for soccer commit to U of O, play for the Ducks. Another guy play for Gonzaga. And
That's
one of
awesome.
our football guys actually just committed to San Diego. So we've got a lot of athletes that are just now starting to get their big scholarships. And, I probably work with, I'm going to say like 65, 70% of my athletes are 13 to between 9 and 13. And then I've got about 30, 35% of my athletes that are between the ages of like 15 and 18. And so, but the cool thing is these athletes that are getting these scholarships have been working with me since they were 10,
Wow.
since they were 11. And so I'm just now starting to see these athletes achieve their dreams and make these commitments. And it is the best feeling in the world. And I can't wait for them to go out and get that experience. And then, like you said, come back and then share it with the younger generation. So I can't wait for that to happen.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, man. And that's got to be such a cool thing and a rewarding thing to see them, hit these peaks and, like you said, achieve their dreams. It's such a cool thing. It kind of brings me to another point, though, as you were mentioning the different ages that you work with, is because obviously the way you communicate with those different ages is going to be a little bit different. Did that take a while to get used to? Because I'm sure at this point you're used to it now, but like you might have a session with, some 10-year-olds, and then the next, half of the day you're going to a high school and dealing with 15 to 18-year-olds. Like, was that a weird thing to get used to at first, as far as the intensity, the focus, their attention span, all that stuff?
Yeah, so it's definitely two completely different personalities.
Yeah.
With the high schoolers, there's that fine line of like, hey, because I'm not old enough to be their dad, right?
Sure.
So I'm more of like that big brother to them. And so with my high school athletes, it's like having that fine line between, hey, we're friends, but hey, I'm here to help you get better. Versus with the youngsters, I'm, I don't know. I don't know what I am. I'm uncle, I guess.
We'll say uncle. Yeah,
Um, yeah, and so we have so much fun. And the biggest thing I realized with the youth athletes is if they're not having fun, they're not going to get any better, because you can't be just too serious. Even though we're trying to teach technical skills, you have to find fun ways to teach technical skills.
Sure.
Versus with the high schoolers, it's more about, hey, what's your dream? What's your goal? We used to say train with purpose. Like I just made a post about it on social media, actually, is like, what's your why?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you here? Are you here to make your team? Because if so, beautiful. Are you here to get that scholarship? Because if so, we need to train with purpose. We need to train with the intensity of, I'm here to get a college scholarship. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a little bit different. It's a little more strong, a little more aggressive, a little more focused with the older athletes versus with the youth. It's more about how can we have fun.
One of the questions I enjoy asking coaches that we've had on here so far is, obviously, like I said at the very beginning, kind of our tagline, even though I'm still trying to fine tune it a little bit, is this idea of, hey, we compete in different uniforms, we play at different levels, we play different sports, but at the end of the day, we're all a part of this home team. And so obviously part of that is you compete against these people that are also a part of the home team, right? Like we're all in this together as far as building up the sports community, making the young athletes better, making our communities better. But we still Friday night, you're still going to compete against those guys and you want to win, and that's just how it goes. So it's an interesting dynamic. But that being said, I always like to hear who coaches want to shout out, maybe someone they've competed against on the field or across from, and they say, man, I have a lot of respect for that coach. So you're in a little bit of a different spot because of the business that you run and being a trainer, not necessarily a coach of a specific team. So that being said, who is another trainer here in Sacramento or the surrounding area that you feel is just killing it and you have a lot of respect for, and why?
I actually just listened to your guys' previous podcast, and I think the same person got a shout out, and that's gonna have to be. Did you lose me?
No, I'm trying. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
No,
We've been losing it so much.
I know that was actually me in thought. I'm like, who was our last podcast?
And so it's a name that you're going to hear again, but I know him on a very, very deep level, Mr. Mike Johnson from Playmakers Elite.
Oh, Michelle Dapper.
And
Yep.
yeah. And so Mike trained me when I was in college because he was the receivers coach at American River when I came in. And then I worked with him for just athletic performance in general, which is what I would say he's known for in the Sacramento area.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, though, is like everybody sees where Mike's at now, which he's got a pretty awesome facility, a nonprofit organization. But when I worked with him, we worked in garages. And I'm talking not like at his house. I'm talking like parking garage structures. He'd be like, hey, meet me at the corner of here and here, because he knew there was a nasty hill that we had to climb.
Yeah.
And
wow.
So I was with Mike in the grinding stages where he didn't have his own facility. And he used to pull stuff out of his trunk and strap me up to a wheel, and we were going. And I just have so much praise to say about him. And I just have, he really helped me. And watching how his business grew, I got to see him go through the ugly stages, of dealing with facilities and having to get, it's a struggle out there, man. People don't realize, like, when you're renting space and you grow, people don't want you to grow more than them. So then they get upset and then they kick you out. And I've seen him get kicked out of facilities and pushed to new, but it forced him to grow. And then he forced him to grow even more. And then you get pushed out of somewhere else, forced him to grow. We get kicked out of a, public park or a parking garage because we're not allowed to be there, forced him to grow. And so then from that aspect, from myself, I went through a very similar road. I was at parks, training at fields, wherever I could. And then I started renting facilities. And then I started getting kicked out of facilities, started having to go to other facilities. And so, Mike is an OG in the game. He's been doing it for a really long time, and I got the great things to say about him. I give a lot of credit as to like my style of training and my mindset of training to, how he groomed me. So I like to give Mike a lot of hype because Mike is one of the few trainers I know that he's not a big social media guy.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't like to post. He doesn't like his name shout out. So he might not even like that I'm talking about him this much on here.
The second time on this podcast. Don't hold hold it against Dapper and Daniel, not us. Just we want you on the show, exactly. Mike. I reached out to him already and I said, hey man, we want you on the show at some point. So
he doesn't ask a lot of praise and he doesn't need a lot of praise. It's something I appreciate from him in a world where everybody seeks that attention and that praise. He doesn't look for it, so it's really awesome. Cool.
That's awesome. And I always feel like it's a great thing when we hear someone's name on here multiple times from different people, because again, it just speaks to their reputation. It speaks to their reach and influence. So we're going to have Mike on at some point. I've already reached out to him. So I've already reached out to him. So it's got to happen, dude. So let me ask you this last question, and I feel like this is an important one, and I'm really excited to hear your answer. And hopefully I don't know, we're at like a minute since the last cutoff, so it feels like it's every like minute and a half or 2 minutes. So hopefully you don't get cut off with this answer. But again, thinking about the home team of Sacramento, thinking about this area that you grew up in, and now that you're coaching in, training in, what do you want the legacy or your legacy to be for the home team? So when your athletes go on and they're doing great things and they come back here and they think of Daniel Thomas, or when your family, your, future kids one day, all that those different things and people think about Daniel Thomas and your legacy in this city of Sacramento. What do you want that legacy to be?
The legacy is going to have zero to do with athletic training, and it's going to have to do with how we made them feel, the confidence that we instilled in them, the love that we poured into them, and the greatness that we saw inside of them and helped bring out of them. You hear through like Nike commercials or even through Mr. Kevin Bracey himself,
Yeah.
chase greatness. And we're really big, and we don't say chase greatness. What we talk to our athletes about is we say, no, there's already greatness inside of you, but it's your job to train it to come out.
Mm,
And we believe wholeheartedly that every single athlete, whether they're going to be an athlete long term, college, pro, or if it's just a season of life, that they've got unique qualities, they've got unique passions and gifts inside of them. And but you're never going to maximize those gifts if you don't try them, if you don't train them, if you don't work at them, So
sure.
at the end of the day, it's all about how we make these kids feel, the confidence we give them, the love we pour into them. And if they make it in sports, and even better. But
Yeah.
that's my goal, and the legacy we want to leave is, hey man, Coach DT, the dynamic training team, they loved me, they poured into me, and they changed my life.
I love it. We're going to end this thing right there because I'm tired of dealing with Zoom. I'm gonna be honest with you. And this is a great interview. We don't even need to say anything else, man. This is awesome. I appreciate your time, dude. Where can they follow you on? I mean, everywhere. I mean, I feel like you're everywhere. Where can they follow you? Tell us all of it.
Yes, I got the Gary V mentality. I'm everywhere. So on YouTube, Dynamic Training with DT.
Okay.
All other socials, you can find us at Fit Life of DT.
Perfect. Make sure, and I'm not just saying this because he's on the show. I've told people this before. Make sure you check out his YouTube channel. A lot of great content on there. And like I was telling you before we started recording, both motivational, inspirational type stuff, like practical training type stuff, like anything and everything. Make sure you check it out. Go follow him because you won't be disappointed. And he's doing like the inspirational, motivational stuff for you, coaches. So if you're like, man, I don't even know what to say to these clowns today, I gotta inspire him somehow. Hey, pop on one of Daniel's videos. He's doing the work for you. You know what I mean? So just get out there and start following him. Subscribe to his channel. So hey man, we appreciate it as always. Like I said, we're so thankful that you're part of our home team here in Sacramento and all the great things that you're doing. Man, just keep up the great work, and we'll have you back on, and hopefully, like I said, Zoom won't be such a big participant in this thing.
That's right. One day we'll be in person, and there will be no stopping us.
That's right. That's right. And then if Zoom still interrupts, it's like, well, they really don't want this thing to happen. Like some representative from Zoom knocks on the door, like, hey, stop the meeting. Like, what is going on here? So yeah, we appreciate it, dude. And good luck with everything. And we'll talk to you later.
Thanks so much for having me.